Hey, welcome everybody to our third episode of UF Pro's Instructor Series. My name is Gerry from Triple Feed, and today we're going to be going over client movement on foot. A few key things you want to take into consideration when moving around with your client is you are the first line of defense between your client and the threat. The other thing is muzzle discipline. If you're moving out and about with your client, you want to make sure you know where your muzzle is oriented at all times. The other thing is, similar to CQB, footwork is a foundation, but ultimately if your footwork isn't there, just get in front of your client. Okay, let's get into the nitty gritty then. So there's 4 basic shield steps that we teach. It's gonna be from the 3 o'clock position, the 9 o'clock position, 8 o'clock, and the 4 o'clock position. So let's bring in our lovely assistant, Lily. Lily's gonna be acting as our client. So we'll start off at the 3 o'clock position. My client's gonna be set on my left-hand side. Her 3 o'clock position is gonna be on her right-hand side. All I'm basically doing is stepping. My footwork is gonna be my left leg diagonally across her body. So I'm gonna step in front of her, and my contact point is the back of my body to the front of her body. At that point, I would have drawn my weapon out. So we'll do it dry. Again, there's a threat in front of me. I'm going to step with my left leg, simultaneously drawing my weapon out, and my contact point is gonna be my back to her body. If she moves, if there's no more contact point, that tells me one of 2 things. A, the client is down, or B, the client is moving. At that point, I'm probably gonna want to reference and make sure that my client is still behind me. So a few shortcomings that we've seen when utilizing this tactic is either overstepping, understepping, or they're client focused where they're looking at the client and they crash into them. So I'll give you an example. If you overstep too far out and you draw your weapon, I have no contact point between me and my client. My client could beat feet somewhere. The opposite, if I understep, I'm crashing into my client, and that's not what I want to do. And then lastly, if you're client focused, again, I'm looking at my client, not at my threat. That's just not something we want to do. Okay, so now let's move over to our 9 o'clock position. If I'm on my client's 9 o'clock position, it's the same footwork, now it's the opposite leg. So now my right leg is going to diagonally come across her body. I'm gonna draw my weapon. I have that contact point between myself and my client. If she starts moving, I can grab my client. And then the last 2 variations are gonna be with you behind your client, so either at the 8 o'clock position or the 4 o'clock position. I'm already at the 8 o'clock position. This requires one more piece of footwork. So you have to catch up to your client, and then you have to shield step in front of your client. So you don't wanna diagonally go towards your client because now your client focused, and at the same time, you're understepping, which could cause a clash between you and your client. So again, you wanna take a step forward, and then across to draw your weapon out. Few things you want to take into consideration when doing that. I'm behind my client. If I start drawing my weapon behind my client, my muzzle orientation might be directly right in front of my client. So if my client, Lily, if I could have you just take a step to the left. If I'm starting to draw my weapon out here, this is where we might have a problem. I might muzzle my client, might muzzle other people. So you want to make sure that you're at least parallel to your client when you're drawing your weapon out. So we'll do this now from the 4 o'clock position, which is her opposite position. Again, now I'm gonna take a step forward with my right leg. I'm gonna diagonally cut across. At that point, I could bring my weapon out and I can engage if need be. So one thing to take into consideration when shield stepping in front of your client is your hands in relation to your client themselves. Some school of thoughts tell you that to actually grab your arm and bring it across their body to stop them from moving, and then you could draw your weapon. Some people grab onto their client and draw their weapon out in order to keep that contact relation between you and your client. Ultimately, at the end of the day, get in front of your client, protect them from the threat. All right, so we demoed this dry. Let's go ahead and do this live now. All right, man, let's try this right. All right, stop, now. You okay? Mm-hmm. Stop. You okay?
Yep.
Brett, look out! Brett!